Peace, 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 peace. I already see some people put in some comment in it. Shout out to Born Internal Lord Allah. Shout out to you. Shout out to Wise Shahid. Shout out to you guys. So, salam alaikum to the brothers and sisters out there. And Ramadan Mubarak to you guys. Today, it's going to be a very interesting topic. So, I'm going to be talking about Ibn Arabi and the Sufi Metaphysics and also the Akbariyya. So I'm going to incorporate that as well. But before I go on into the details, make sure you guys subscribe and hit the notification bell, share the channel, like the channel, all that great stuff. Thank you all who have been subscribed to my channel as of lately. Thank you guys that have been very supportive. I appreciate that a lot. So I'm going to try not to be as long on here because I have plethora of information, so I'm not going to be able to get through them all. However, I'm just going to share the ones that, I feel that people need to know or need to have in their possession. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So now, first and foremost, I want to get into who is Ibn Arabi first. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about Ibn Arabi. That's who I'm going to get into. So now I want to say this before I even go in there. Sufism is basically the mysticism of Islam. Okay. It's basically the mysticism. That's all it is. If you study like the Kabbalism, right? Or the Kabbalah is the mysticism of Jewish knowledge or the Jewish tradition. And, Christianity have its own mysticism as well. So each of these Abrahamic religion, they all got a form of mysticism that people don't really pay attention to or don't know much about, okay? Because they're focusing on just the religion doctrine alone and the religious text alone and not looking at the esoteric knowledge behind it, because the esoteric knowledge is what makes it more divine and makes it more, brings more connection to the spiritual aspect of things. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to focus on Sufism, because the previous year, last year, I did the topic about Sunni Islam and the Shia Islam. Okay, those are religious institution per se, but I didn't get a chance to get in depth about Sufism. So I wanted to make time out to study more into Sufism and different scholars and different teachers and things like that. All right. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So I'm gonna post up my screen over here. All right, as you can see right here, this is the picture of, or this is the drawing of Ibn Arabi. Okay, that's Ibn Arabi. This is beautiful, by the way. This is really nice. You can turn this into a house getting custom made like this. Anyways, peace, brother Vinyasa. How you doing? How you doing? I hope everything going well with you. All right, so let me just go ahead and get started. So, Ibn Arabi, whose real name is Muhammad Din Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Muhammad ibn al-Arabi al-Hatimi al-Ta'ad al-Dalusi al-Mazuri al-Damashik. Yeah, so he has a very long name, okay? So that's why the name is shortened to Ibn Arabi. Let's go ahead. So he was an Arab Abdullahian Muslim scholar, right? Okay. So Abdullahian or Abdullah is located in the Iberian Peninsula, etc. So anyways, he was a Muslim scholar. He was a mystic, a poet, and philosopher. And he was extremely influential within Islamic thought. So out of the 850 works attributed to him, some 700 are authentic, while over 400 are still extinct. His cosmological teachings became the dominant worldview in many parts of the Muslim world. Okay, so he is renowned among practitioners of Sufism by the name of Al-Sheikh Al-Akbar, which means the greatest sheikh, right? And the sheikh in Arabic means scholar. All right. From here, the Akbariyya or Akbarian school derives its name. Muhindi Ibn Arabi and was considered a saint. He is also known as Sheikh-e-Akbar Makhindu Din Ibn Arabi throughout the Middle East. In medieval Europe, he was known as Dr. Maximus. Wow. So he had multiple names. He had multiple titles he carried. That's pretty interesting. So he participated enormously in Sufi Metaphysics. One of his major ideas of Wahad al-Wujud. Wahad al-Wujud, my bad, which stands for unity of existence. All right, so again, he was born from the Tile tribe, born in Marshila al-Andalus on the 17th of Ramadan, 1560, which will be July 28th, 1165 AD, okay? So Ibn Arabi was Sunni, although his writing on the 12 Imams were also popularity received among Shia. It is debated whether or not he ascribed to Zakiri Ma'ab, which was later merged with the Hanabali school. All right, so before I continue, now the way Ramadan is, all right, in the Islamic calendar, there's a rotation. So it's not like in the Gregorian calendar where the days and the months are very consistent, right? And they remain the same. Like July is going to be in the summer in the Gregorian calendar. And the Islamic calendar is different. July might be in the wintertime. July might be somewhere in the springtime, in the summer, or in the fall. So Ramadan does not always fall on the summer. Okay, so the month of Ramadan can fall on a winter, it can fall on a spring, and it can fall on the fall. You know, so it's a rotation. It's not just that constant thing. It's just rotated. It's always a rotation, and that's how their calendar are. So, you know, so the Ramadan might fall in the summertime or it can fall in the springtime. It depends on how it's rotating. And I think they just go by the moon cycle and, you know, the cosmos and things like that. I think that's how they follow it, you know. But yeah, it's not like the Gregorian calendar. Okay. But let me continue. So he was born as a Sunni Muslim. Okay. All right. So anybody don't know about the Sunni doctrine? The Sunni doctrine, basically, they believe in the 5 pillars of Islam, of course. They also believe that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the last prophet out of all prophets, and there was no other prophet after him. There was caliphs, you know, like leaders, but there was no prophet after him. You know what I'm saying? So he was the last, he was the seal of the prophets. And that's the Sunni doctrine right there. So they really go by the Sunnah, the creed, and also follow the Hadith as well. Okay. So so that's how he was raised. He was raised in the Sunni culture, right? And let's see, go down. It says, after his death, Ibn Arabi's teaching quickly spread throughout the Islamic world. His writings were not limited to the Muslim elites, but made their way into other ranks of society through the widespread reach of the Sufi orders. Arabi work also popularly spread through works in Persian, Turkish, and Urdu. Many popular poets were trained in the Sufi orders and were inspired by Arabi's concept. Okay. So it says, other scholars in his time, like Munawwali, Ibn Ahmad al-Hanbali, and al-Firuzabadi, all praised Ibn Arabi as a righteous friend of Allah and faithful scholar of knowledge. Okay. The absolute Mutahid, without doubt, and the Imam of the people of Sharia, both in knowledge and in legacy, the educator of the people of the way, in practice and in knowledge, and the Sheikh of the Sheikhs of the people of truth, though spiritual experience and understanding. All right, so it talks about his paternal lineage. So let's just look at that real quick. It says his paternal ancestry was from South Arabian tribe of Tai, and his maternal ancestry was North African Berber. Okay, so he had some North African in him. Al-Arabi writes of a deceased maternal uncle, Yahya ibn Yagan al-Shahaj, a prince of Tlemcen, who abandoned wealth for an ascetic life after encountering a Sufi mystic. His father, Ali ibn Muhammad, served in the army of Abdullah Muhammad ibn Sa'd ibn Madanish, the ruler of Marcia. When Ibn Madanis died in 1172 AD, his father shifted allegiance to Ahmad Sultan Abu Yaqub Yusuf I and returned to government service. His family then relocated from Marcia to Seville. Ibn Arabi grew up at the ruling court and received military training. All right, so he had military training. He had that background because of his father. So yeah, but it's very interesting that his maternal lineage was of North African Berber. So he was a mixture of the South Arabian tribe, which is the Tai, and he was also mixed with the Berber of North Africa. So he come from two different backgrounds. Okay. So as a young man, Ibn Arabi became secretary to the governor of Seville. He married Maryam, a woman from an influential family. Okay. Let's skip down to where it says pilgrimage to Mecca. So Ibn Arabi left Abdullah for the first time at the age of 36 and arrived at Tunis in 1193. After a year in Tunisia, he returned to Abdullah in 1194. His father died soon after Ibn Arabi arrived at Seville. When his mother died some months later, he left Abdullah for the second time and traveled with his two sisters to Fez, Morocco in 1195. He returned to Cordoba, Abdullah in 1198 and left Abdullah crossing from Gibraltar, or Gibraltar, I can't even say the word, for the last time in 1200. So he'd been traveling back and forth from his homeland to different places and whatnot. While there, he received a vision instructing him to journey east. After visiting some places in Maghreb, which is the northwestern part of Africa, right? Which is the area that's over in the sunset region. And Maghreb also means sunset, the west. He left Tunisia in 1201 and arrived for the Hajj in 1202. He lived in Mecca for 3 years and there began writing his work at Futuhat al-Mecca, the Meccan illumination. All right. So these are his writings right here. As you can see, it's all written in Arabic. Okay, this is his writing. Let me pull it up for you guys. So I only know a little bit of Arabic. I don't speak Arabic. Anyways, after spending time in Mecca, he traveled throughout Syria, Palestine, Iraq, and Anatolia. In 1204, Ibn Arabi met Sheikh Maduni Isha ibn Yusuf, a native Malata and a man of great standing at the Seljuk court. This time, Ibn Arabi was traveling north. First, they visited Medina, and in 1205, they entered Baghdad. This visit offered him a chance to meet the direct disciple of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. Ibn Arabi stayed there only for 12 days because he wanted to visit Mosul to see his friend Ali ibn Abdullah ibn Jamani, a disciple of the mystic Qadil al-Bin or Alban. There he spent the month of Ramadan and composed Tanazulak al-Musilla Katab al-Jalal wal Jamal, which means the book of majesty and beauty, and Kun ma la Buddha lil Murid Minhu. All right, so I don't know what the translation for that means. Return. So he had returned south in the year of 1206. Ibn Arabi visited Jerusalem, Mecca, and Egypt. It was his first time that he passed through Syria, visiting Aleppo and Damascus. He later in 1207 he returned to Mecca, where he continued to study and write, and spending his time with his friend Abu Shuja bin Rustin and his family, including Nazim. The next 4 to 5 years of Ibn Arabi's life were spent in these lands, and he also kept traveling and holding the reading sessions of his works in his own presence. All right. So this is his tomb right here. So this is the picture of his tomb. Okay. And now the background looks beautiful, don't it? It looks really nice. But that's his tomb. And as you can see, that's the Kaaba over there. Okay. So on 22 Rabi al-Thani, 638 AH, which is November 8, 1240, at the age of 75, Ibn Arabi died in Damascus. Okay. So it goes in to talk about the Islamic laws. Let's just look at a little bit of this, and then we're going to go into more information. So although Ibn Arabi stated on more than one occasion that he did not blindly follow any one of schools of Islamic jurisprudence, he was responsible for copying and preserving books of the Zahirites or literalist school, to which there is fierce debate whether or not Ibn Arabi followed that school. Izza Gozar held that Ibn Arabi did in fact belong to the Zahirite or Hanbali school of Islamic jurisprudence. Hamaza Dajian claims that Adis, and skipping all of that, mistakenly attribute to Ibn Arabi non-Mahabism. There was a debate whether he was following the Islamic jurisprudence or not. He stated that he did not follow any of them, but there was debate that he did. So yeah, go down here. It says, as transmitted by Ibn Arabi gives an introduction to the work where he described a vision he had. I saw myself in the village of Sharaf near Seville. There I saw a plain on which rose in elevation. On this elevation, the prophet stood, and a man whom I did not know approached him. They embraced each other so violently that they seemed to interpenetrate and become one person. Great brightness concealed them from the eyes of the people. I would like to know, I thought, who is this strange man? Then I heard someone say, this is the traditionalist, Ali ibn Azim. I had never heard Ibn Azim's name before. One of my sheikhs, who I questioned, informed me that this man is an authority in the field of science of hadith. All right, so that's according to Gozer, the Sayers, their doctrine and their history, 1971. All right, so it would say that he had a vision, and he met a man named Ali ibn Azim, and when he spoke to his sheikh, he found out that Ibn Azim was the science. He was the authority in the science field of hadith. So that was like his inspiration to go down the route that he went to, get involved in Sufism and metaphysics and whatnot. Okay, so so yeah, that's that information, right? I may come back to this later, look at other information on here, but just to give you guys the general idea, to give you his bio or whatnot. Yeah, so that's Ibn Arabi. Okay, he was a Sufi scholar. All right, so if you guys want to look up more information, you can just go on Wikipedia. You can type in his name. So let's see. Let's get into Sufi metaphysics. Let's talk about that for a moment, all right? So now, what is metaphysics, first and foremost? Now, metaphysics deals with going beyond the physical, okay? All right, so let's look at metaphysics for a moment before we actually go into Sufi metaphysics. So when you're dealing with metaphysics, you're going beyond physical things, okay? You're dealing with things from the abstract, all right? So metaphysics is a branch of philosophy. Check this out. Because see, I gotta go to the metaphysics. So now metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that studies the fundamental nature of reality. Okay, the first principles of being, identity, and change, space, time, and casualty, necessity, and possibility. It includes question about the nature of consciousness, the relationship between mind and matter, between substance and attribute, between potentiality and actuality. The word metaphysic comes from two Greek words that together literally mean after or behind or among the study of the natural. All right. It has been suggested that the term might have been coined by a first century CE editor who assembled various small celestial or Aristotle's work into the treatise we now know by the name metaphysics. Okay. So that means going after the physical or going beyond physical. All right. So think of metaphysics as like this: who, where, what, why, and to what extent. I'm quite sure you guys learned that in school. I know you learned that when you took a language art class, right? Or English. You learned the question of who, where, what, why, and to what extent. That's metaphysics. What is it like? What is there? What is consciousness? What does it mean to have mind over matter? All right, so there's two branches. Actually, there's three branches, right? But I'm just gonna say the two. So the one is ontology. Ontology is the state of being. So that's a branch of metaphysics. It's a state of being. That's the ontology. Axiology, which is also a state of metaphysics, right? A branch of metaphysics, which is the value. So axiology, which is AX, SS and S men, IOLOGY. That means the study of values, right? Ontology, which is the study of being, okay? So those two goes under metaphysics, and cosmology also go under metaphysics too, because you're studying the universe as a being, and you're studying the abstract concept of the universe, right? You study from beyond the physical standpoint. So cosmology falls under metaphysics as well. But I had to go into what metaphysics is, okay, before I could actually talk about Sufi metaphysics. Now, let's get into the Sufi concept of metaphysics. All right, check this out. Now, Sufi metaphysics is centered on the concept of wahada, unity, tawhid. The two main Sufi philosophies prevail on this topic. Wahada al-wajud literally means the unity of existence or the unity of being, right? Wajud, existent, present here, refer to God. On the other hand, wahada ash-shahud means apparentism or monotheism of witness, holds that God and his creation are entirely separate, right? So it says some scholars have claimed that the difference between the two philosophy differ only in semantics, and that the entire debate is merely a collection of verbal controversies which have come about because ambiguous language. However, the concept of the relationship between God and the universe is still actively debated both among Sufis and between Sufis and non-Sufi Muslims. All right. So as you can see, it's debatable as far as what is Wahada al-Wajud. All right. So you know how that goes. You know, those things are debatable among scholars. You know, and there's scholars that don't always agree or with the terminology of words, etc. Wahada al-Wajud, the mystical thinker and theologian Abu Sa'id Mubarak, discussed this concept in his book called the Tufa Mursala, right? And Adulassian Sufi Saint Ibn Sabin is also known to employ this term in his writing, but the Sufi saint who is most characterized in discussing the ideology of Sufi metaphysics in deepest detail is Ibn Arabi. Okay, he employs the term wajud to refer to God as the necessary being. He also attributes the term to everything other than God, but he insists that wajud does not belong to the thing found in the cosmos in any real sense. So rather, the things borrow wajud from God, much as the earth borrows lights from the sun. The issue is how wajud can rightfully be attributed to the things also called entities, right? From the perspective of Tazik, Ibn Arabi declares that wajud belongs to God alone. And in his famous phrase, the things have never smelt a whiff or wajud. From the point of view, the Tajbih, he affirms that all things are wajud, self-discourse, or self-manifestation. In some, all things are he/not he, which is to say that they are both God and not God. Now, you might be a little confused. Well, you might ask, okay, if they're God, then how can they be not God? And if they're not God, then how can they be God? So I think the concept comes from saying that, all right, you have the demigod and you have the God above all the gods. All right. So that means that you're God in your own way and you're God in your own likeness, but you're not the greater. You know what I'm saying? You're not the ultimate creator. You're not the ultimate God. Okay. You're just like the God in your likeness. All right. You have some attributes of God, but you're not the almighty. You're not the all creator. If that makes sense. Okay. So it does sound confusing when it says that they both God and not God, because you'll be questioning, well, which one is it? You can't be either or, but basically mean that you are God in your own likeness, you're God in your own way, but you're not the ultimate God. And that's the best way to understand it. All right. So, and it goes on to say both wajud, not wajud, right? Okay. So let's go back. Wajud means what? Existing. All right. So both wajud and not wajud means that you exist, but you don't really exist. In his book, Fasis al-Akim, Ibn Arabi states that wajud is the unknowable and inaccessible ground of everything that exists. God alone is the true wajud, while all things dwell in non-existence. So also wajud alone is non-delimited, while everything else is constrained, confined, and constricted. Wajud is the absolute, infinite, non-delimited reality of God, while all other remain relative, finite, and delimited. Did you hear that? So he basically saying that God at the end of the day, or Allah, is the true wajud, okay? And you are existing, but you are at a non-existent level. So that's speaking from the spiritual standpoint, mean that you're just like that spiritual being that operates in the physical body, right? You just a spiritual being that operates within the physical body, but you're really not your physical body. So it sounds like that's what he's trying to convey. It's like you're not your physical body. You're not really in the physical. Okay. You just operate through your physical body, but you're not your physical body. That's what he's saying. And that's the way I understand it. I mean, everybody else got different interpretation. Right? Let's see. Let's go down. Let's go down. So it says Ibn Arabi's doctrine of the Wahad or Wadat al-Wajud focus on the esoteric reality of creatures instead of esoteric dimension of reality. Therefore, he interprets that Wajud is one and unique reality from which all reality derives. The external world of the sensible object is but a fleeting shadow of the real God. God alone is all embracing and eternal reality. Whatever exists is the shadow of the real and is not independent of God. Woo! This is summed up in Ibn Arabi's own word, glory to him who created all things, being himself their very essence. That's powerful. So to call Wajud or real being, one is to speak of the unity of the essence. In other words, terms it is to say that being, light in itself, is non-delimited, that is infinite and absolute, undefined and indefinable, and indistinct and indistinguishable. In contrast, everything other than being, every existing thing is distinct, defined, and limited. The real is incomparable and transcendent, but it discloses itself in all things. So it is also similar and intimate. It possesses such utter non-delimitation that it is not delimited by non-delimitation. God possesses non-delimited being, but no delimited prevents him from the delimitation. On contrary, he possesses all delimitation, so he is non-delimited delimitation. All right. On the highest level, Wajud is the absolute and non-delimited reality of God, the necessary being that cannot exist. In this sense, Wajud designates the essence of God or of the real. The only reality that is real is every respect. On lower levels, Wajud is the underlying substance of everything other than God, which is not Ibn Arabi and other define the cosmos of universe. Hence, in a secondary meaning, the term Wajud is used as a shorthand to refer to the whole cosmos, to everything that exists. It can also be employed to refer to the existence of each and everything that is found in the universe. All right. Now, it says God's name or attributes, on the other hand, are the relation which can be discerned between the essence and the cosmos. They are known to God because he knows every object of knowledge, but they are not existing entities or ontological qualities. For this would imply plurality in the Godhead. Ibn Arabi used this term, effusion, to denote the act of creation. His writings contain expression which shows different stages of creation, a distinction merely logical and not actual. The following gives details about his vision of creation in three stages: the most holy effusion, the holy effusion, and the perpetual effusion. Wadat al-Wajud spread through the teachings of the Sufis like Kuyawi, Jandi, Tilanasi, or was it Tilasani, Kashari, and Jamai. The note scholar Mahibullah al-Abadi strongly supported the doctrine. Sakal Samas and Bulan Shah, two Sufi poets from the present day Pakistan, were also ardent followers of Wadat al-Wajud. It is also associated with the Ahmad, meaning he is the only one, philosophy in South Asia. Okay, so now, as you can see, I know that it's just kind of confusing in a way, the way it's broken down. But and then some people may ask the question, well, why is God a he? Okay, let's get into that concept. Because you have to remember at that time period, it was a patriarchal way of thinking, right? But in all actuality, God is not necessarily a he per se, like a actual human being. But because on a theology standpoint, it was said that God created man first before he created woman. So that's why the term he was used. So you couldn't say it. You know what I'm saying? So in these Abraham religion, they generally use he because they believe that God have created man before woman. But in a general sense, he can be referred to, both male and female. So when you read the scriptures, right, and it says every man, it's not just talking about the male itself, it's also talking about the female. But because the idea that man was created first, he has been used as a general term. All right. But other than that, in all actuality, we don't know God is really a he or she. We don't even know that God really exists or not. So, that's where agnosticism come into play. That's when agnosticism come into the argument, because it's like, okay, you don't know if there is an existence of God, and you don't know if there is no existence. So you really don't know. You know what I'm saying? You just know that you're here. You're just knowing the state of being, which is the ontology, right? And you just only know about your value, which is the axiology. That's all you know. You don't really know if this being is a God per se, right? Or you don't know if there is an actual creator per se. Okay, that's where agnosticism comes into the argument. All right. So, but again, that's just the general terminology that was used during that time. The idea of that man was created first before woman, etc. All right, so here it is. Now it says the criticism of the concept. So that was criticism about the Sufi metaphysics. So check this out. It says Sufi metaphysics has been a subject to criticism by most non-Sufis, right? Al-Andalus, where most of the Muslim scholars were either Zahirites or Malikites, referring Asharite creed. Sufi metaphysics was considered blasphemy and its petitioner blacklisted. Followers of Asharite creed in the East were often suspicious of Sufism as well. Most often cited Sufi metaphysics as well. However, it is important to know that Ibn Arabi was influenced by Al-Ghazali, who himself was a strong supporter of Azarite creed. It says, criticism within the Sufism. Some Sufis, such as Ahmad Sahindi, have criticized Wadat al-Wujud. Ahmad Sahindi wrote about the saying that the universe has no existence of its own and is a shadow of the existence of the necessary being. He also wrote that one should discern the existence of the universe from the absolute, and that the absolute does not exist because of existence, but because of his essence. That kind of make you wonder. That kind of make you think for a moment. Let's see. It does not exist because of existing, but of his essence. It's pretty interesting, right? All right, let's go down here where it says, response to criticism. Pir Makir al-Shahad and Saeed Wahid al-Sharaf have countered that two concepts differ in what Wadat al-Wujud states that God and the universe aren't identical. They hold real existence to be for God only, and the universe to have no existence on its own. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting criticisms. Yeah, very interesting. All right, so let's see. Let's go down to one more, which is the Wadat ash-Shahud. So the Wadat ash-Shahud has often been translated into English as apparentism. In Arabic, it literally means unity of witness, unity of perception, unity of appearance, or oneness of manifestation, right? Out of those who oppose the doctrine of Wadat al-Wujud, There were two who substituted the pole of subject for the object, formulating the doctrine of Wadat al-Shahud. This school was formulated by Allah ad-Dallah Shinani, who was to attract many followers in India, including Ahmad Sahindi, who provided some of the most widely accepted formulation of this doctrine in the Indian subcontinent. Now, according to Ahmad Sahindi doctrines, any experience of unity between God and the created world is purely subjective and occurs only in the mind of the believer. It has no objective counterpart in the world. The former position Sheikh Ahmad felt led to pantheism, which was contrary to the tenets of Sunni Islam. He held that God and creation are not identical. Rather, the latter is a shadow or reflection of the divine names and attributes when they are reflected in the mirrors of their opposite non-beings. So with that being said, right, there's the unity of perception and there's the unity of existence. Okay, so Wadat al-Wajud deals with the unity of existence, and whereas Wadat al-Shahud deals with the apparentism. Okay, so these are pretty interesting philosophies of Sufi metaphysics. Very interesting and very thought-provoking, in my opinion, to be honest. Yep. So let's see. Let's go on. Let's go ahead and I want to take you guys to a website that I seen on here. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is the website of the Muhindi Ibn Arabi Society. So as you can see, they talk about the introduction to Muhindi Ibn Arabi, right? The website is called ibnarabisociety.org. All right. So according to the website, let's see what they're talking about. They said the mystic, philosopher, poet, and sage Muhammad bin Ali Ibn Arabi is one of the world's greatest spiritual teachers, known as Muhindi, the reviver of religion, and the Sheikh al-Akbar. It says he was born in 1165 AD in the Moorish culture of the Andalusian Spain, the center of extraordinary flourishing and cross-fertilization of Jewish, Christian, and Islamic thought, through which the major scientific and philosophical work of antiquity were transmitted to Northern Europe. Right, Ibn Arabi's spiritual attainments were evident from an early age, and he was renowned for his great visionary capacity as well as being a superlative teacher. He traveled extensively in the Islamic world and died in Damascus in 1240 AD. Okay, this is a nice place. It looks beautiful. He wrote over 350 works, including the Fuzzes al-Hakim and Explosion of the Inner Meaning of the Wisdom of the Prophets in Judaic, Christian, and Islamic line, and the Fuhat al-Maleka, a vast encyclopedia of spiritual knowledge which unites and distinguishes the three strands of tradition, reasons, and mystical insight. In his Dawan and his Tawanjman al-Ashwaq, he also wrote some of the finest poetry in the Arabic language. Okay, it says these extensive writings provide a beautiful exposition of the unity of being, the single and indivisible reality which simultaneously transcends and is manifest in all the images of the world. Ibn Arabi shows how man in perfection is the complete image of his reality, and how those who truly know their essence self know God. So when you know God, you know yourself type of thing. When you know God, you know yourself type of thing. So firmly rooted in the Quran, his work is universal, accepting that each person has a unique path to the truth which unites all paths in itself. He has profoundly influenced the development of Islam since his time, as well as significant aspect of the philosophy and literature of the West. His wisdom has much to offer us in the modern world in terms of understanding what it means to be human. So if the believer understood the meaning of the saying, the color of the water is the color of the receptacle, he would admit the validity of all beliefs, and he would recognize God in every form and every object of faith. All right, so this comes from the website, the Mohindi Ibn Arabi Society. All right, that's their website. And I just thought that I wanted to show that. Peace, TK. How you doing? Shout out to you, bro, TK. Right, you the one that influenced me to do this topic, so shout out to you. And thank you for it. Okay, so before I get to the books, right, I want to also show you the information of this Sufi Metaphysics branch, which is called the Akbariyya. Okay, so the Akbariyya was founded by Ibn Arabi himself. Okay. All right, just bear with me, y'all. I know it's a lot of information. Just bear with me. All right, so Akbariyya. As you can see, that's a picture of him again. And it says, Akbariyya is a branch of Sufi metaphysics based on the teachings of Ibn Arabi and Abdullahian Sufi, who was a Gnostic and philosopher. The word is derived from Ibn Arabi's what nickname, Sheikh al-Akbar, meaning the greatest sheikh. Akbariyya has never been used to indicate a specific Sufi group or society. It is now used to refer to all historical or contemporary Sufi metaphysicians and Sufis influenced by Ibn Arabi's doctrine of Wadat al-Wajud. It is not to be confused with al-Akbariyya, which that's another branch. That's a whole nother separate group, another separate Sufi. They are a secret Sufi society, which was founded by a Swedish Sufi named Abdul Hadi Aguli. So Al-Akbariyya is another Sufi group, which I can do later on, much later on. But yeah, so let's just focus on Akbariyya. All right, let's just not get those two confused. All right, so I already went into the Wadat al-Wajud, okay? All right, so anyways, academic studies. Now, in Europe and the United States in the 20th century, there has been a focus on the Akbariyya school in academic circles and university viewed in a historical context. Increased government support for the study of the Muslim world and Islamic languages emerged in the United States after the Second World War, where many students were attracted to Islamic religious study during the 1970s, right? It said the greatest growth in American scholarship on Sufism took place during the 1970s. Alexander Nish notes that in the decades after World War II, the majority of Western experts in Sufism were no longer based in Europe, but in North America. Henry Coben and Fritz Meyer, who were prominent among these experts, made important contributions to the study of Islamic mysticism. Other important names were Miguel Ashen Palacio and Louis Mazangan, who made contribution to Ibn Arabi studies. Palacio discovered some Akbarian elements in Dante's Divine Comedy. Mazanyan studied the famous Sufi Al-Hajj, saying, Anal Ak, I am the truth. All right. So Saeed Hassan Nazir and his students and academic disciples have come to play an important role in certain subfields of Sufi studies. The influence of Nazir and other traditionalist writers like Rene Gunan and Frojad Shun on Sufi studies can be seen in the interpretation of the works of Ibn Arabi and the Akbarian school by such scholars as Titus Muckhart, Martin Leans, James Morris, William Chetik, Shachiko Murata, and others. These names are both mostly practitioners of Sufism and scholars studying Sufism. All right. So as you can see, there's the list of Akbarian Sufis right down here at the bottom. There's a list of them. All right. So as you can see, Akbariyism took interest right after the Second World War, And in the 70s, many people was getting into studying about the Islam and the religion. And one of the things they studied on was Akbariyya. And they study a lot into Ibn Arabi, Ibn Arabi's work. So they study Ibn Arabi's work a lot, study his philosophy and whatnot. And he brought like a great influence. So to me, this guy, let me see. Somebody put a comment on here. My bad. Let me look at this comment. Okay, Red Sufar Rumi. He said that and got killed. Who got killed? Who you talking about that got killed, brother? Are you talking about the last person that I read on, or are you talking about who was that you talking about that got killed for saying that? Oh, okay. I think I know who you talking about. Oh, you talking about the famous Sufi al-Halaji saying, "Ana ak, I am the truth." You must be talking about al-Haji. Let me see. Oh, okay. Okay. Al-Haq. Okay, got you. Yeah, okay, got you. Yeah. Well, in some Islamic culture, right? Some Islamic culture, they do take that very seriously. Like if you say that you are the truth and you say you greater than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you would have been killed for saying certain things. Especially if you go into like the Arabian Peninsula and you proclaim that you are the next messenger in line, etc., and that you are following the divine order of Allah, whatnot, you would either got dismissed or you would have got killed for saying something like that. So, but wow. But they do. Yeah, some Islamic orders do take that seriously. Like they look at that as blasphemy. Some of them do. All right, so that's that. Now I got some books that I want to share. So I don't know where to start because I have so many of them. Okay. So many that I'm not going to be able to share it all, but I'm going to share the first one. It's so funny that you mentioned the red sulfur, right? So I have a book on that. Let's look at the quest for the red sulfur. All right, Quest for the Red Sulfur, the life of Ibn Arabi. And translated from the French by Peter Kinsley. All right, so you can see the Arabic alphabets right here. Alif, Ba, Ta, Da, Jin, Ha, Ka, Dal, Dal, Ra, Za, Shin. Yeah, I used to know these alphabets a long time ago. So, all right. I'm gonna kind of skip the introduction and then just go down to chapter 1 of this book. Let's go down. All right. So it says homeland. Andalusia belongs to God, right? It says you live in an Andalusia with its water, its shade, its river, trees. How blessed you are. The garden of bliss is nowhere else than in your country. And if it was possible for me to choose between them, it would be your country I would choose. Don't be afraid of going to hell tomorrow. Whoever has known paradise would never enter Jannah. Okay. Now, it says, countless poets have sung the charms of Andalusian countryside with its green gardens, its river, its flower, its fragrance and scent. These verses by Ibn Khalifa are far from unique. Andalusia, land of enchantment, land of paradise, the native Arabic language abounds with these enthusiastic analogies or eulogies. Andalusia and everything in it belongs to God. Another poem declaims from statements such as these to making the Prophet Muhammad say what he never said is just a small step. The Andalusians took that step by piously inventing some hadith. After my death, a peninsula will be conquered in the west. Its name is Andalusia. Whoever lives there will live in a state of blessedness. Whoever dies there will die a martyr. For again, God spread out the earth before me, and I was able to see how much of it my community would possess. I saw that Andalusia would be its final conquest. I asked Gabriel, what is that peninsula? He replied, Muhammad, that is the peninsula of Andalusia, which your community will conquer after your death. Whoever lives there will die in a state of blessings. Whoever dies there will die a martyr. Put together from bits and pieces, these hadith testify just as much to the strength of sheer passion which the Arab conquerors felt for Andalusia as to complete and utter absence of that scientific scrupulousness which he compilers were sometimes quite capable of. All right. So skip down, it says Andalusia is a fertile peninsula remarkable for immense size of its lands and sea, for the great variety of its fruit, and for its natural resources. It is favored with a considerable population and enormous advantages. There are many wild animals, birds, fish for game. Its soil is good, its water drinkable, uninhabited region are rare, fortress and castle are everywhere. It also has rich quantity of mines of rocks, crystal, ore, sulfur, lead, and tin. Add another one further comment by the same author. The inhabitants of Andalusia are more courage and more difficult to govern than any other people, even the great Caesar himself, and the picture is complete. Wow. So that's powerful information. Let's see if we can look up the quest for red sulfur. Let's see what they're talking about in this book. Okay, so right here what it says, I am the Quran and 7 substitutes. Let's see. Let me see if I can. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and go to the next source because I'll be spending all day. But as you can see, this book is titled "The Quest for the Red Sulfur: The Life of Ibn Arabi." Okay, so as you can see in the first chapter, it talks about the fact that the people, what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a conversation with Gabriel, the angel, and the angel told him that the people are going to go to Andalusia, right, which is over in Spain area. They're going to go over there. They're going to live there, and the people that lives there, they going to be blessed, and the people that die there, they're going to become a martyr. All right, so if you guys want to check that book out, you can. So okay. All right, so I'm gonna go on to the next book. So yeah, it's a lot of sources I have on here, a lot of sources. So this book right here is called the Al Arabi and the Sufi, Ibn Arabi and the Sufi by Bayin Abrahamo. Okay. So it talks about Ibn Arabi and the Sufis that came after him, etc. So if you guys want to check this out, you guys can. You can look into that as well. So, all right. So let me just go ahead and go to the next one. So this one's called the Sufi Path of Knowledge. The Sufi Path of Knowledge. Yep, Sufi Path of Knowledge, Ibn Arabi's Metaphysics of Imagination. So let's just look at this one real quick by William Chetik. So let's look at this real fast. Make this easier. Introduction. Okay, so here's the introduction. As you can see. Now let's just go ahead and go to the overview. So it says the divine presence, right? It says finding God. How can I find God? Ibn Arabi maintains that all human beings must seek to answer this question. Having answered it, they must then set out to verify the truth of their answer by finding God in fact, not in theory. He refers to those who have successfully verified the truth of their answer as the people of unveiling and finding. They have passed beyond the veils that stand between them and their Lord and stand in his presence. The path they have traversed is open to everyone. It is the path brought by the prophets and followed by the friends of God. And it is the path set down in incredible detail in Ibn Arabi's words. To understand how he conceived of the problem, the path, and the goal is the major task of the present study. We begin by examining the question, how can I find God? And it says finding renders the Arabic wajud, in which another context may be translated as existent or being. The famous expression oneness or being or unity of existence, which is often said to represent Ibn Arabi's doctrinal position, might also be translated as the oneness or unity of finding. Despite the hundreds of volumes on ontology that have been inspired by Ibn Arabi's work, his main concern is not with the mental concept of being, but with the experience of God's being, the tasting of being, that finding which it is at one and the same time to perceive and to be that which truly is. Okay, no doubt Ibn Arabi possessed one of the greatest philosophical minds the world has ever known, but philosophy was not his concern. He wanted only to bask in the constant and ever renewed finding of the divine being and consciousness. He, for one, had passed beyond the veils, though he was always ready to admit that the veils are infinite and that every instant in life in this world and for all eternity represents a continual lifting in the veils or of the veils. And it says to find God is to fall into bewilderment, not the bewilderment of being lost and unable to find one's way, but the bewilderment of finding and knowing God and of not finding and not knowing him at the same time. Every existing thing other than God dwells in a never land of affirmation, negation, finding and losing, knowing and not knowing. The difference between the finders and the rest of us is that they are fully aware of their own ambiguous situation. They know the significance of the saying of the first Caliph Abu Bakr: incapacity to attain comprehension, it is itself comprehension. They know that the answer to every significant question concerning God and the world is yes and no, or as the Sheikh expressed it, yes slash not he. He slash not he. All right. Multiplicity in one. Multiplicity in one. Well said. Yeah. So this is another book that you guys could go ahead and check out. It's called the Sufi Path of Knowledge by Ibn Arabi's Metaphysics of Imagination, all right, which is written by William C. Chetik. So you guys can check this book out. Make sure you guys put this book on your bucket list. Okay. So let's see what else. I might do 3 more because I have a lot of book here. I have a lot. All right, let's look at The Alchemy of Human Happiness by Ibn Arabi. Let's look at this book. Okay, so The Alchemy of Human Happiness, for those of you who don't have it, is translated by Stephen Herrenstein. All right, so also available from Aqua Publishing. As you see, there's a lot of Ibn Arabi books. There's a lot of them. Okay, so there's the introduction. Let's look at cosmic order. Hold on. All right, so let's go down to where it says cosmic order. Alchemy relies above all on the idea that the universe is a beautifully ordered place where the original infinite and indeterminate state of being has been differentiated into an order of knowable patterns, revealing truths about the world and about human beings. The exceptional unity of all things is one substance, and all varied physical bodies and forms are manifestation of that substance. All right, this cosmic order is observable in interaction of the 4 elements: earth, water, air, and ether / fire. A theory expounded by Empedocles, Plato, Aristotle, and others. These arise out of the same substance and can be converted into each other. Each element is regarded as having 2 qualities or humors. Earth is cold and dry. Water is cold and wet. Air is hot and wet. Ether, fire is hot and dry. The 4 elements are considered to be different forms of appearance of prime matter, so that all visible material things are a specific combination of hotness, dryness, coldness, and wetness. A thing's appearance in one form does not preclude its transmutation into another. All right. And then it says, secondly, there is a close and important correspondence between microcosmism and macrocosmism and microcosmism. The universe, the great world, and the human being are expression of the same reality. Indeed, these correspondence link what might otherwise appear as disparate worlds, heavens, planets, and the world of earths and elements, the universe out there, and the human's individual consciousness. Thus, the science of astrology developed as the key to understand the formation and transmutation of element and material and metals. It is worth noting that, according to Plato and Aristotle, all earthly objects are under the power of the moon and are in a state of constant flux and transformation. In this natural state of change, which the alchemical art seeks to imitate and utilize, earth can be changed to water if its dryness is converted into wetness and it remains cold, or air can become fire if its natural moisture is replaced by dryness. This condition of macrocosmetic flux was seen to mirror that in the microcosmism, in the incessant play and interplay of thoughts within the human mind. Now this is interesting. Let's see what the third one talking about. The process of growth and development reflect each other. The fundamental doctrine of medieval alchemy derived from Aristotle's meteorology and current until well into the 17th century CE was that metals grows within the earth just as plant and animals grows upon the earth. One basic substance metamorphoses into all the known metallic forms. 7 were known in medieval times, which were linked to the 7 known planets. The immediate parents of these metals are sulfur, right, which identify with fire, hot and dry. Mercury and quicksilver identify with water, cold and wet. These 2 principles, the former male, the latter female, which together contain all the possible diversity of the elements, interact within the earth in the form of vapors and halonation, and under particular condition, metals are formed. All right. Oh, okay. Thus, the idea that there is a single substance which splits into 2 progenitors, and these in turn give rise to their metallic offspring, directly parallels the human creation, which is often spoken of in the Quran as deriving from Adam. O humankind, fear your Lord who created you all from a single soul, and who created from it its fellows, and who spread many men and women from the 2 of them in both the human and the metallic world as the universe itself. The crucial factors was to understand how a multitude of different forms could have come about from one origin. In numerical terms, this is identical to the Pythagorean understanding of the way in which the number 1 is doubled to become 2, and how from that principle division all number proceeds. All right. And it says each metal represents a different stage of growth or development within the earth. If left to develop and mature naturally in the earth under the right condition, it was believed that the metallic substance would eventually turn to gold. This ripening process result in a hierarchy of metals, with gold and silver occupying the highest position. Mining was viewed as a kind of natural abstracted or abstracts, delivering the baby metal out of the womb of the earth. Since all metals are striving to reach their ultimate stage of development of gold, the alchemist's task is to intervene in order to hasten the transmutation of the metal into gold, achieving in a day that would take nature hundreds of years. The reason that metals appear different is that the quantities of the progenitors, sulfur and quicksilver, were not in balance at the time of their origination, and that subsequently accidents befall them in the relative world. They were called accidents because they were not considered to be fixed. They were thought to have occurred because the metals development had been interrupted, either as a result of temporal condition or condition within the earth, or through being affected by the movement of the heavens. The planets, therefore, were seen as playing a direct part in the formation of particular metals and in the natural evolution towards gold. All right. Let me see something. Somebody put, thank Tiffany. This is a good one. I like stuff like this. Thanks for sharing or presenting. That is, you are welcome. Yes, you are welcome. So for me, this is very surprising. This was actually recommended by Brother TK himself, the brother that's in the chat. He's the one that recommended me to talk about the subject of Ibn Arabi. And so then I studied on about the Sufi Metaphysics for a minute. And then I looked into other things and I said, well, I just go ahead and just talk about it all together. So as you can see, it's a lot of information. So if I was really trying to talk about it all at once, then it'll probably take me like a 4-hour video, which I ain't trying to do no 4 hours. So I'm just trying to like get through like each little sources as much as I possibly can. Yeah, the Sufi are wild. And like I said, the Sufis had a very scientific mindset. Going back to what I was saying in the previous video, that a lot of the stuff that we are practicing in modern science came from those ideas of those who were Muslims, Christians, etc. So they borrowed those ideas from those people. Okay. So a lot of the stuff that you hear, that you see, all these philosophers, all these scientists, they pretty much played the influence into what we know today as the modern science. So modern science would not be where it's at if it wasn't for these medieval time period and the pre-sciences. And see, when what I just read about the alchemy, that dealt with the pre-science. That was the science before the actual science that we know. That was like the earliest form of science. Religion, spirituality was the earliest form of science before there was a modern science. Okay, before there was any scientific knowledge that we know of today. That was the earliest form of science. Religion was trying to be able to bring about a determinant or tell the story about the natural phenomenon. Spirituality was doing the same thing, trying to tell the story about the natural phenomenon. But once you was able to go into the development about the scientific methodology and being able to what is it called? Not critique. It's another term. I can't even think of the term. But you was able to go through the falsibility, being able, be able to falsify or be able to show and prove that this may not be what it is, or this could be what it is, and etc. You know what I'm saying? So, but before all that took place, it was religion and it was spirituality that was trying to explain the natural phenomenon. You know what I mean? And so when we go into like the pre-Christian era and the pre-Islamic era, oh my goodness, it goes deep. So you have to go back into what's called Zoroastrianism, right? So Zoroastrianism is like the earliest form of the Abrahamic religion and all these other Eastern philosophy, okay, that you know of. So Zoroastrianism deals with the earliest form of pre-Christianity. We talking about pre-Islam, we talking about pre-Judaism, we talking about pre-Buddhism, all of that. Okay. Somebody put, let's see, salute art God giggle. Yeah, I don't know much about Sufism, but I like metaphysics. Out of all the folks listed, I'm most familiar with Plato as far as what I read and studied by like metaphysical thoughts or origins. In Arabi was the king of metaphysics. Let me see. Brother of purity. I'm just reading the comments. TK been holding out his hidden genius. Giggle. Thanks, TK, for bringing the conversation out, cause this cool. Okay, so it says, that name sound familiar. William Winwell, that name sound familiar. I heard that name before from somewhere. But somebody put William Winwell is credited for separation. He broke down the terms and classes to separate the conversation and not leave people confused. Philosophy from scientific perspective, that is again William Winwell, this becomes an important footnote to keep in mind for these type of conversation. Absolutely. Yeah, because we got to remember philosophy is the mother of all various form of knowledge. You got to remember, but this is how it all started off. It started off as being philosophical. Religion started off as being philosophical, right? Before it became organized. Spirituality started off as being philosophical, okay? It all started off that way because philosophy is the mother of all knowledge. It's the mother of science. The Brothers of Purity are a foundation of the thought mystical Islam. I have to look them up. Yes, so I'm gonna look into the Brother of Purities. So thank you for suggesting that as well. I'll look them up as well, TK. But yes, philosophy is the mother of form of knowledge, and then basically because philosophy introduced the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? It introduced the knowledge. It brings about the logic, the wisdom, the beliefs, etc. Epistemology is that study of particular knowledge. So you got epistemology that comes along after philosophy because you're studying that particular knowledge in itself. Okay, you're studying that particular knowledge in itself. Then once you study that knowledge, right, then here comes the application. Now when you got the application, that's when science come in, because science deals with, all right, let's look at the facts, let's look at the evidence, let's look at the application. How can it be used? You know what I'm saying? So that's when you deal with the scientific methodology, you know. But at the end of the day, it all goes back to philosophy. I'll be right back. Give me a moment. All right, so before I continue, right, I always give people recommendation of books. So I always recommend this book here. So this book is dealing with the beginning of Western science by the European scientific tradition in philosophical, religious, and institutional context, prehistory to AD 1450 by David Lindbergh, okay? I always recommend this book right here, all right? So, you know, into the origin of what we know today as Western science. And this book right here, this book is called The History of Philosophy by A.C. Grayling. Okay. All right. So I always recommend these two books to people to check out. Always. Because if you want to go into the origin of science here, this is where you got to deal with the philosophy. All right. Because again, philosophy is what deals with the logic, beliefs, wisdom, teaching, right? It deals with the introduction of knowledge, just to break it down in its simplicity, right? Then you have the concept of epistemology in here, ontology, metaphysics, axiology, etc. All of that is in this book. Okay, so I recommend people get this book. I still have a lot to read and go into. I have a lot to go into in this book. And this, I still got, let me see, what chapter did I stop at? I stopped at chapter 2 about the Greece and the cosmos. I'm going to finish up this book as well. But see, this book, this is another book. Like I said, this book is really going to go into detail about Western sciences. Okay. And you will thank me later. You will thank me later. You will come back and say, Tiffany, thank you for recommending these two books. All right. Get this book and get this book right here. All right, it says, correct, Tiffany. That's why I tell everyone who argue against your current point being explained to define P in PhD. P is philosophy. But, you know, PhD basically deals with doctoral degree. You know what I'm saying? You have a doctoral degree. But, yeah, PH is basically dealing with philosophy. That's all it is. As a matter of fact, let's go look it up. What is PhD? All it is Doctor of Philosophy. That's what PhD stand for. Doctor of Philosophy. That's it. So if you're going to argue against philosophy, then you might as well not get a PhD, because that's what you're getting. You're getting a doctor of philosophy. That's the highest degree that you get. That's the highest of the degree that you're going to get. All right. But let me but real quick, let me go ahead and let me get back to this book. So let's look at part 1. All right, so let's look at part 1, because I don't want to I don't want to lose track. So part 1, alchemical as litter are an evidence proof showing what can be altered and replaced in realm of existence. If an enemy has an as litters of divine grace cast upon him in a proper balanced measure, he can truly pass in time from his state of enmity to the degree of his friendship. The power of judgment and decree. Correct the weight using the scale of our revealed law I have explained clearly, so be on your guard. Alchemy is a science of determining measures how much or how many is a figure in the world of forms. Be aware of that if you are someone who reflects and do not let desire remove you from clear observation. Then you will be admitted to the degree of pure angels, and you will ascend in rank beyond the world of mere human. Okay. It then goes on to say, alchemy is an expression for the knowledge that pertains to weights and measure as regard all the bodies and meanings in the sensible and intelligible realms that can be quantified and measured, and their power to change and be transformed, by which I mean the changing of states that come upon the one essence. It is a knowledge that is at once natural, spiritual, and divine. We call it divine because there appears the attributes of being seated, descending, witness, and the numerousness of the divine names in relation to the one named by virtue of the diversity of their meanings. The cosmic order is either concealment or unfoldment. Just as mode and quantity are states of measurement, our constitution pride themselves over their constitute element as tolling their degree of distinction due to inviolated mystery. Let me read that again. As towing their degree of distinction due to an inviolated mystery, revelation brings down rules manifested as law. Judgment contains both prohibiting and command. All right. So it says the science of alchemy, which is knowledge of the Esler, has two parts. I mean, in terms of its action. One, on the one hand, there is the originating of something like gold ore, and on the other hand, there is the eliminate of a defect in alignment like alchemical gold, which is classified as equal to natural gold. This is like the development of the world, the other world, and this world in the search of equilibrium. Note that all minerals stem from one fundamental source, and that source is inherent nature always seeks to be unified with the rank of perfect completion and fulfillment, which is godness. However, since the source becomes conditioned by the natural world, right, on account of the effects of the divine names with all their various properties, then on its journey through the degrees, defects, and alignments befall it due to differences in time, such as the warmth of summer, the cold of winter, the dryness of autumn, or the moisture of spring, and due to variation in the nature of places like the heat or cold of the mind. In general, there are many defects which may affect the source. All right. So yeah, this is one powerful book right here. I strongly recommend this book, The Alchemy of Human Happiness. Like, I really like Ibn Arabi right about now, just looking at his work. So, yeah, I think you guys should check this book out. Put that on your bucket list, The Alchemy of Human Happiness. Ooh. All right, let's see. What else can I get into? All right, so let's look at all right, so right here it says Ibn Arabi, A Prayer for Spiritual Elevation and Protection. Study, translation, transliteration, Arabic text by Suha Taji Faraku. A Prayer for Spiritual Elevation and Protection, right? Oh, this is one of your personal favorite? Well, you came to the right place. It's a prayer over time. Okay, well, let's see what they're talking about in this book. Okay, so let's go to chapter 1. All right, so these are people that came after him. These are the other Sufis that came after him. Okay, that's a diagram and chart right there. Okay, so now let me just go back up. All right, so let's look at the prayer for spiritual elevation and protection. Now let's look at properties, right? Okay. It says many who have present or transmitted the prayer during the last 400 years have emphasized the importance of reciting it diligently and of taking it, as one puts it, as a regular practice. Several recommend that it be recited every morning and evening, and some in the morning only. Others add that it should also be recited in times of difficulty or distress. One way to encourage regular reading has been to tie the prayer to Akbariyya, as in some ijaza associated with it among certain contemporary Sufi circle discussed earlier. In one copy, the prayer is integrated into a daily/nightly reading cycle, repeated 4 times, and opening prayer, a number in interface text. Ibn Arabi's wit for the day/night, the dua, a concluding prayer. Other copies incorporated after the full complement of the Akwa, where this case, the owner of an Akwa copy sometimes adds it by hand at the end. Yet there are many more cases where the prayer is not associated with the Akbariyya, and several copies offer specific advice concerning what should be recited before and after it without reference to the Akbariyya. Such recommendation typically encompass the Sawat invocation of divine names and formulate emphasizing God's unique power but there are many variations. In more substantial treatments, recommendation concerning recitation of the prayer are intertwined with a detailing of its special properties, for the latter are activated only through its proper use. Commentators and copyists outdo each other in describing these by way of illustration. A particularly comprehensive statement of the prayer's properties by the HA 12th through 13th century commentators al-Dumani, written in rhymes posed in Arabic, is given below. And it says, I ask Allah that the prayer may benefit whoever recites it with sincerity and firm in the belief that it may achieve their desire, and for whoever preserves in the benefits it contains, for he is the one who bestows with noble generosity, the one who knows the condition of those who recite. Whoever uses what is in the prayer or recites it with complete inner belief may achieve their desired goal, but whoever recites it or uses it benefits while raising objection will gain nothing but distress and corruption. I include some of the benefits of this great prayer in respect to which the response will never fail, provided that one has pure heart. Among its benefits are the following. Whoever reads it regularly, diligently, morning and evening, need not fear poverty, blindness, or broken bones. He will be in God's security, custody, en route, and at rest on land and at sea. He need not fear beasts of prey, loss of his possession, accidents, aches and pains, illness, shadow, companions, male and female, disobedient and insolent jinn, and malicious storm demons. He need not fear the arrows of war, for he will always be victorious, never defeated. He need not fear any kind of enemy, human or jinn. He need not fear highway robbers, for Allah will rip to other shred anyone who stands against him. If the one who recites the prayer boards a ship, he needs not fear harm or malady, being taken captive, drowning, or any epidemic, being in airborne or earthbound or land or at sea, nor the ship being holed and torn apart. Wow, it says, whoever recites the prayer will be safe from enemies and evil oppressors and from all unjust and envious in all ways, in all the worlds. He will be respected and well liked by all who sees him, and they will unable to endure being away from him. He will be like the sun and the moon among the stars. The heavenly and the earthly worlds will love him all his life. He will be protected from migraine, headaches, throbbing, and shooting pain, tooth, ear, eye, and stomach ache, facial palsy, hemiplegia, convulsion, and every malady that afflicts humankind. He will be protected from devilish insinuation and thoughts, will have pleasant dreams, and will see only what gladdens him in all his days. All right. And as you can see, that's this book right here. So again, it's A Prayer for Elevation and Protection by Ibn Arabi. Okay. And you said, yes, they transmitted the prayer. And that's powerful. I would recommend this book as well for you guys and whatnot. Now, let me say this before I go on to the next. Okay. Like I said, I'm gonna make it real quick. You know, a lot of times people make the criticism about those who make prayers and whatnot, things like that. So we do know that prayer is not going to work for everybody, okay? It's not going to work for the collective of the universe or whatnot. But what prayer is nothing more than meditation. So if you can meditate, that's basically what prayer is. All you're doing is meditating. You meditate to the divine source or to your God or whoever you worship. You're giving meditation to, you giving under in credence. So that's a way to alleviate your mind from all the stress, from all the chaos in the world. You know what I'm saying? It's a way for you to be able to learn how to become stoic. So for those of you that don't know about the Stoic philosophy, I spoke about that before in my videos. If you want to go back and look at my previous videos on Stoicism. So basically, when you learn about Stoicism, you just learn that some things is beyond your control and you just have to let things be. You can't be able to put too much stress or emphasis on something that you don't have that much control power over. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the Greek/Roman philosophy that many of the Romans and Greeks stand by, but it's also applied to humanity. So prayer happens to be one of those things where, you know, it's supposed to help you to be able to learn how to be stoic and learn how to be able to maneuver through life and be able to get past things. So prayer is not going to, everybody in the world is not going, just because you get down on your knees or you prostrate or whatever you got to do, just because you do all these things doesn't mean that it's going to stop the corruption altogether. Okay, you can't stop the corruption just by one single prayer. No, only thing you can do is just be able to pray for your peace. You know what I'm saying? Bring about your meditation, bring about your bring about your inner being. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing you can do. You can be able to control what's going on in your life. So that's the whole purpose. You know what I'm saying? It's just to bring peace. It's just to bring meditation to you. You know? So people get the misconception that prayer is supposed to just help everybody as a collective, and it's not going to do that. And we just have to be honest with ourselves. It's just nothing more than meditation. That's all it is. All right. Okay, so the next one is the Self Discourse of God. All right, so, and then I'm gonna go to one more. So this one's called this one's called the Self Discourse of God, principle of Ibn Arabi's Cosmology. Let me go ahead and post that screen note for y'all. The Self Discourse of God, principle of Ibn Arabi's Cosmology. Okay, by William C. Chetik. All right, God in the Cosmos. Let's look at God in the Cosmos. That's chapter 1. All right, so check this out. Wajud and the entities, right? The Arabic word for cosmos, alam, derives from the same roots as alam and ilm. The derivation suggests that the cosmos is both a source of knowledge and a mark or a signpost pointing to something other than itself. We mention the cosmos with this word to give knowledge that by it we mean he has made it a mark, right? The Quran refers to all things as signs of God, which is to say that Quranically, the meaning of things is determined by the mode in which they signify God, the real. Hence, the term cosmology might be defined as knowledge of the marks and signs and the understanding of what they signify. Ibn Arabi's cosmology is then a science of sign, an account and a narration of the significance of marks. Okay, In most general sense, the word alam means world. It can refer to the whole universe, in which case I translate it as cosmos, or to any coherent whole within the universe, in which I can render in which case I render it as world. In the first sense of the term, Ibn Arabi commonly defines alam as everything other than God, or everything other than the real. Thus, the cosmos is everything other than God, whether high or low, spirit or body, meaning or a sensory thing, manifest or non-manifest. Within the cosmos, there are many worlds, but before looking at the worlds and entities within the cosmos and the internal structures that shape the cosmos, we can usefully look at how Ibn Arabi situates the cosmos in relation to God. The most important synonym for cosmos is probably creation. Like its English equivalent, the Arabic term has two basic sense. It can refer to the act of creating or to the result of the creative act. In the second sense, the word may be employed as a synonym for cosmos is everything other than God, or everything created by the creator. The term is often juxtaposed with al-haq, the real. Sometimes the word is used with a plural verb. In such context, I translated it as creatures. Then it is equivalent to makulat, or if I say the makulat, I don't know how to pronounce that. But anyways, the created things. Now it says signs, marks, and proof. More commonly than either sign or mark, Ibn Arabi employs the term dalil to refer to the fact that the cosmos points to God. The term means guide, directive pointer, indication, signifier, evidence, proof, denotation. Although found only once in the Quran, it becomes an important term in Islamic sciences, where it used to refer to the proofs and demonstration that scholars marshal argues their cases. I translate the term sometimes as signifier and sometimes as proof. In the first and more general sense, the term means practically the same as sign. But in the context of the rational sciences, it usually takes on the technical sense of a formal proof. In Ibn Arabi's view, these rational arguments and formal proofs are inferior to unveiling, tasting, as source of knowledge. In one passage, he contrasts the terms sign and proof, identify the former with the direct cognition achieved by the folk of unveiling, and the latter with the indirect understanding acquired by the rational thinkers. He has in view specifically the philosophers, who are commonly called the sage, while philosophy, which is philosopher, is also called wisdom, hikmah. All right, so now there's a terminology, okay, and as you can see, this is the name of the book, called The Self Discourse of God in the Cosmology. Now there's a terminology that deals with the worship of the suns and stars in the movie. It's called Astro Theology. So I'm going to get into that real fast, what Astro Theology is, and then I'm going to go back to some more information. So, it's almost 2 hours. Let me hurry up because I don't want to be on here too long. Okay, let's look up the term Astro Theology. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so now let's look up the term astrotheology, because this is what we're talking about here. When we look at a book like the Self Discourse of God, and this with the cosmology, and it goes in talking about the cosmos and stars and how Ibn Arabi viewed that as the pointer to God, etc., and the creation God and all that. Let's just look at what Astro Theology deals with. So Astro Theology or Astro Mysticism, Astro Religion, Astro or Stellar Theology, right? It's the worship of stars individually or together as the night sky, the planets, and other heavenly bodies as deities, or the association of deity with heavenly bodies. In anthropological literatures, these system of practice may be referred to as astral cults. All right. So the most common instance of this are sun gods and moon gods in polytheistic system worldwide, also notable in the association of the planets with deities in Babylon, and hence in Greco-Roman religion, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, gods, goddesses, and demons may also be considered personification of astronomical phenomena such as lunar eclipse, planetary alignments, and apparent interaction of planetary bodies with stars. The Sabians were known for their astrotheology, for which reason the practice is also known as Sabiism or Sabinism. The term astrotheology was first used in the context of the 18th and 19th century scholarship aiming the discovery of the original religion, particularly primitive monotheism. Astrotheology in any religious system founded upon the observation of the heavens, and in particular may be monotheistic. More recently, the term astrotheology is used by Jan Ivrin, Jordan Maxwell, and Andrew Ratati in reference to the earliest known forms of religion and nature worship, advocating the entheogen theory of the origin of religion. The related term astrolatry or astrolatry usually implies polytheism. Some Abrahamic religions prohibit astrolatry as idolatrous. Pole star worship was also banned by imperial decree in Heian period in Japan. So, but this is going to be another topic, okay? So this is going to be another topic to deal with. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like just throw out there what astrotheology is. All right. That's going to be a topic by itself, because this is where we're going to combine this with modern science. For those who are atheists and who talking about, oh, we don't believe in this, woo-de, woo-de, woo. Well, I'm finna bring you on some news. I'm finna bring you into a whole nother world, in a whole nother topic, and you guys are really going to be in shock, because in fact scientists does worship the concept of stars and the moon, but they may not bow down as far as like getting on their knees and pray, but they're giving credence to the moon, to the stars, to the sun and all that. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to be another topic, because we're going to have to dispel all of this, because in a way, this is why I say in a way science is a form of religion, okay? All right. So this is what you call astrotheology, all right? But it's going to be a whole nother topic, all right? And that topic is going to get some people mad. It's going to get some folks in their feelings. Some folks ain't going to like it. But I'm just saying though. Just saying, okay? Some folks gonna get mad about this, you know what I'm saying? So, but it's just scientists are unaware of the fact that they are using astrotheology. They are unaware of that, okay? But in the sense, they are using it, okay? They're using it, but in modern times, they may not call it that. They might not have direct terminology. They may not do it in the way that the Abrahamic folks or the Eastern philosophy folks are doing it, but they are giving credence and worship to the stars and the moon and the sun and the cosmos and the planets and all that. Hence, all the planets that you see today, right? The names of the planets, they came from the names of the god and goddesses. The months, the days of the weeks came from the name of the Roman and Greek god and goddesses. But again, that's a whole nother topic that's going to be by itself. All right. A whole nother topic. All right. But I just want to give you guys, I want you guys to just be familiarized with the concept of astrotheology. Okay. All right. All right then. All right. But Yeah, so let me just go to another book. And this is going to be the last book that I do. Okay. And all the rest, I'm just going to post it up on my Facebook page. If you guys on my Facebook page, I'm going to post some of these books up. And you guys can, just read them on your own term and whatever you want to do, etc. Okay, so this book right here, I posted yesterday when I did the subject about Sufi psychology, right? This one is called The Science of the Cosmos and Science of the Soul, the Persistence of Islamic Cosmology in the Modern World by William C. Chetik. Okay, so far I posted like 3 of his books or maybe 4 of his books. All right, so don't you see this book right here, The Science of the Cosmos, Science of the Soul, the Persistence of Islamic Cosmology in the World. All right, so the Science of the Cosmos, Science of the Soul. All right, so right here is the introduction. Number 1 is a vanishing heritage, right? That's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is intellectual knowledge. Chapter 3 is the rehabilitation of thoughts. And chapter 4 is beyond ideology. Chapter 5 is the unseen men. And chapter 6 is the anthropocosmic vision. Chapter 7 is search for meaning. Oh, yeah, it gets pretty deep. It gets pretty deep here. Seems like some deep information. All right, so let's see. Let's look at the role of intellectual tradition first, okay? Okay, let's look at vanishing heritage, right? So intellectual understanding in the strict sense is found at the highest pinnacle of human selfhood, what the philosopher calls the actual intellect. When such understanding leaves the realm of pure intelligence and descends to the level of thought and language, we are dealing with its expression, which will always be inadequate to being with expression is simply transmitted knowledge, not actual understanding. Nonetheless, we can still appreciate that a distinction has always been drawn between these two sources of knowledge in Islam and other tradition. It is this distinction that I need to clarify at the outset. Then I will suggest how ignorance of the foundational importance of intellectual understanding has contributed to the crisis faced not only by Muslim but also by human community in general. All right. All right, so it says the intellectual tradition Islam has addressed 4 basic topics: God, the cosmos, human soul, and interpersonal relationship. The 3 are foundational constitute of reality as we perceive it, and the 4th applies the insight gained for studying the first 3 to the realm of human activity. One can, of course, read about all these topics in authoritative sources of transmitted knowledge such as the Quran and the Hadith, but knowing them for oneself is another matter altogether. For the intellectual tradition, transmitted knowledge plays the role of pointers towards an understanding that must be actualized and realized by the seeker. All right. Perhaps the best way to understand the difference between transmitting and intellectual knowledge is to reflect upon the difference between imitation or following authority and realization and verification that terms that designate the two basic paths of acquiring knowledge. In order to be a member of any religion, culture, society, or group, one needs to learn from those who are already members. And this process of learning goes on by way of imitation. This is how we learn language and culture, not to mention scripture, ritual, and law. The Islamic context, those who have assumed the responsibility of preserving this transmitting heritage are called the ulama, that is the knowers of the tradition. All right, so that's that first chapter. All right, so let's see. Let's go down to the role of the intellectual tradition. All right. It is important to stress that no religion can survive, much less flourish, without a living intellectual tradition. This becomes clear as soon as we ask ourselves the question, what was the intellectual tradition for? What function did it play in society? What was its goal? In other words, why should people think? Why shouldn't they just blindly accept whatever they're told? The basic Muslim answer is that people should think because they must think. Because they are thinking beings. They have no choice but to think because God has given them minds and intelligence. Not only that, but in numerous Quranic verses, God has commanded them to think and to employ their intelligence. To think properly, a person must actually think, which is to say that conclusion must be reached by one's own intellectual struggle, not by someone else's. Any experienced teacher knows this perfectly well. No doubt, this does not mean that God requires everyone to enter into a sophisticated sort of study and reflection that went on in the intellectual sciences, because not everyone has the requested talents, capacities, and circumstances. Nonetheless, people have the moral and religious obligation to use the minds that God has given them. As the Quran puts it, God burdened a soul only to its capacity. If people's capacity include thinking, then they have the duty to think. But God does not tell them what to think, because that would be to make imitation and hearsay incumbent in intellectual matters. It would defeat the very purpose of human intelligence, for it is for us to understand for ourselves. Man, wow. So let's just go ahead and skip on down. All right, let's skip on down to chapter 2. All right, so I'm just going to focus on the intellectual knowledge. Okay, that's chapter 2. And then I'm just going to skip on. So this book is so good so far. I mean, I would recommend you guys getting this book. Okay. Intellectual knowledge. It says, if we remember nothing else about intellectual knowledge, we need to keep in mind that it is achieved by taqid, which is to know things by verifying and realizing their truth and reality for oneself. One cannot verify the truth and reality of things without knowing them firsthand in one's own soul, without any help from anyone other than God. If knowledge is based on the words of the authorities or the expert, it is not realized knowledge, but imitative knowledge. It makes no difference if the authorities happens to be the traditional prophets like Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or modern day prophets like Darwin, Marx, and Einstein. Some would respond that Muslims do not need to know things for themselves because they can follow consensus, but this is true only in transmitted matters, not in intellectual matters. There is no such thing as ijma in the Islamic intellectual discipline. Basic issues such as taqweed do not depend for their true value on the agreement of the ulama, as if the truth of a mathematical formula could be established by vote. Rather, the truth of the issues is self-evident to those who understands them. All right. One of the sure signs of the loss of intellectual knowledge is the strange phenomenon of Muslim thinkers apologizing for modern science by appealing to the consensus of the scientists. Even stranger is that they think they have taken an intellectual position. This shows that they have confused transmitted learning with intellectual learning. Modern science is indeed built on consensus, but this simply shows that this is fundamentally a transmitted science, not an intellectual science. Scientists do not verify and realize most of what they think they know. Rather, they accept it from their own authorities. Uh-oh. So the truth of transmitting learning depends not on its self-evidence, but on the authority of its prophet and the reliability of its transmitter. It cannot be verified by individuals. Rather, it must be accepted on faith and trust, precisely because it is knowledge by imitation. For the Muslim, intellectual property, so-called, the only possible way to know truth was to know it for oneself. When we do not know for ourselves, we have entered into the arena of transmitted beliefs. Modern science and learning is built on a vast structure of beliefs and presuppositions. The truth of its foundational beliefs is far from self-evident, and it certainly cannot be proven by the scientific method, given that the reliability of the method depends precisely on the presuppositions. The beliefs are part and parcel of a worldview which is accepted on the basis of hearsay and consensus. Again, that's going to be a conversation. That's going to become a conversation about Astro Theology. Okay, there's going to be a conversation about that, so be on the lookout for that, because again, I'm going to be pulling some legs. I might get some people mad. I might get some people ready to come up in here and disagree with me, especially those in the atheist community. They're going to be coming up here arguing me up and down about this, because this is where the conversation of Astro Theology got to come into play. All right. All right, so here go verifiable knowledge, right? All right, so I'm gonna hurry up and make this quick. Let's see. All right, verifiable knowledge. Having alluded to some of the profound differences between intellectual understanding and scientific findings, right? Let me say something about the content of intellectual learning. What sort of knowledge can properly be verified and realized? What were Muslim intellectuals trying to know by themselves and for themselves without following authority? Note first that the purpose of intellectual quest was not to gather information or what we call facts. It was not to contribute to the progress of science, much less to build up a database. Rather, its purpose was to refine human understanding. In other words, seekers of knowledge were trying to train their minds and polish their hearts so that they could understand everything that can properly be understood by the human mind, everything about which it is possible to have certain, sure, and verified knowledge. Each seeker of knowledge was trying to realize his knowledge for himself. He wanted to know his subject firsthand with unmediated knowledge. If he took his knowledge from a teacher or a book instead of realizing its truth for himself, he was an imitator. Imitation can provide only transmitted knowledge. Wow. And it says, speaking generally, for four major areas were considered the proper domains of realization: metaphysics, cosmology, spiritual psychology, and ethics. Metaphysics, cosmology, spiritual psychology, and ethics. Metaphysics is a study of the first-hand and final reality that underlies all phenomena. The topics of discussion is God, though God is frequently called by impersonal names such as being or the necessary or the real. Cosmology is the domain of the appearance and disappearance of the universe. Where does the universe come from? Where does it go? Naturally, it comes from the real and goes back to the real. But how does it get there, and how exactly does it return? The intellectual tradition maintained that it was possible to verify the actual route of coming and going. Spiritual psychology is the domain of the soul, the human self. What is a human being? Where do human beings come from? And where do they go? Why are people so different from each other? How can people develop their potentialities? How can they become everything that they should and must become if they are not to be fully human? Finally, ethics is the domain of practical wisdom and interpersonal relation. How does one train one's soul to obey the dictates of intelligence, follow the guidelines of God, and carry out one's activities in harmony with the real, the cosmos, and other human beings? What are the virtues that need to be achieved by a healthy and wholesome soul? How can these virtues become the soul's second nature? I don't need to go further because that book right there in itself, that book is some deep stuff. This book I would strongly recommend people. Strongly recommend to people. Science of the Cosmos, the Science of the Soul, the Persistence of Islamic Cosmology in the World. I strongly recommend it to people on this month of Ramadan. So yes, I will make sure that I will post this book up to you guys on Facebook, so you guys can look it up for yourself. So I will post a title. I will post all of that up. It's a lot of stuff I gotta post up. Shoot. Wow. But anyways, anyways, this has been a great topic, great discussion. I did not intend to be here over 2 hours and 11 minutes, almost 12 minutes. I didn't intend to be on here for that long, but as you can see, it's a lot of information. Because see, if I would have went over everything like I wanted to, it would have been much longer than that. It would have been like a 6-hour video. And ain't nobody finna sit here and watch my video for no 6 hours. I know that. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful evening. And I hope you all enjoy your Ramadan. I hope y'all had broke your fast and enjoying your meal and all of that. So I will come back with you guys tomorrow with some more information. So please take it easy on yourself. Please be safe. Peace and power, elevation be to all of you. This your girl, Tiffany. And I just want to tell y'all thank you. Okay, and shout out to the chat. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to TK Digital. Shout out to his brother. He was the one that recommended the topic for me. Once again, he told me to do the topic on Ibn Arabi. So I looked up the information and I'm here. So yeah, shout out to the brother. Shout out to brother TK for that. And also, thank you, Brother Vinyasa, for coming through, showing your support and love. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. I appreciate you guys' support. So make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, share my channel, check out the videos on here, check out my other contents on here, and also make sure you check out the sources that I posted up for you guys, read for yourself. You know what I'm saying? If you like what I'm doing on here, hit me a thumbs up. You know what I'm saying? If you want to get a recommendation, make sure you do that. But that's it. Let's see. Well, thank you, TK. Thank you so much. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have for today. I appreciate you guys. I really do. So y'all take it easy on yourself. Y'all be safe out here in these streets, okay? And until next time, peace and power, elevation be to all of you. This your girl, Tiffany. And I'm logging out with saying deuces. All right. Thank you.